Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of our program on the Global Renaissance Television. My name is Comrade Ernesto Chukwukamba. In this episode of our program, we want to look at the mysteries that have surrounded the Bermuda Triangle for so many years. A lot of human lives have been wasted at that place. Ships have sunk, airplanes were drowned, and there was no victim that was rescued alive. Now, we've looked at the possible causes of this tragedy always happening at the Bermuda Triangle. And it came by inspiration. That it was because of the flouting of the promise made by God that He will not destroy the human beings He created with water again after Noah's generation. Unfortunately, during the transatlantic slave trade that lasted for almost 300 years, a lot of able-bodied slave men and women from Africa were not bought. They were taken by barter in exchange for intoxicating substances like gin, tobacco, gun, and other intoxicating substances. The slaves were given away to them free because they were in their raw, uneducated form of nothing but good for nothing but physical fitness. Because if you bought the slaves with money, there's no way you discard them in the ocean just to reduce medical expenses. Now, because of the way these unfortunate individuals were discarded, uncelebrated, and dishonored, it's like being buried alive when you are thrown overboard into the ocean. Their souls have remained restless and hovering all over the world since that incident of the transatlantic slave trade. So by inspiration, God said humanity has again flouted His orders, that He will not destroy the world again after Noah's generation. Now, these people come upland from time to time, apart from drowning anything that flies across us. So they also come upland from time to time and wreak havoc on humanity and retreat back into their restless aquatic domain. So we want to explore the possible ways of putting an end to this tragic force at the Bermuda Triangle. Now you know the Bermuda Triangle is the point in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean from Africa to Europe and America. And that was the route that the slaves were passing through before. Ships passed through that route before. So now, these able-bodied men and women were taken to Europe and America to grow their vast agricultural plantation. If you go to Europe, America now, you see the glory of the black man. Because the ones they took, none of them were ordinary people. Apart from their different sensibilities, they were huge, tall, 6-footers, people who can till the soil under rain or snow or sun without getting tired. So they were carefully selected by their slave masters. That's why we don't have giants in Africa anymore. There are not too many. Also, remember that God gave human beings authority over every other thing He created. So these live sea monsters, they ate and ate and ate discarded human beings. They now furiously teamed up They cursed both their slave masters, they cursed both their ancestors for slave trade in a foreign land without any compensation. And that is responsible for Africa's underdevelopment since the end of the slave era. Africa has been going through so many challenges, including the enslavement of God's own people, which God had already cursed them. Therefore, enslaving his people of Israel for 430 years, Africa would have to suffer for more than that number of years. If you check the period it has taken since the slave trade till now, it's likely about 400 years. But the souls of these people who were discarded and were not buried formally has been restless and disturbing a lot of African families where they came from. There is an urgent need now for the world to bestow on them their last respect, because they are not coming back to join us in the land of the living again. And I know nobody would wish their loved one to end up their life in that way. The reason why people are entitled to a befitting burial ceremony is to allow their souls to rest in peace. And that is why they are also entitled to a 6-feet interment by a priest to enable their souls to transit happily to the great beyond. But when they are discarded, they flow in the oceans, the live sea animals eat and became tired. But because God had already given human beings authority over every other thing he created, the sharks and other animals ate human beings and became tired, and the human beings who were discarded now teamed up with these live sea monsters to constitute that terrible mighty force at Bermuda Triangle. That's why if you look at some individuals that come from the water, from their waist up, we look like human beings. From their waist down, it's nothing but a fish. So the human beings, these unfortunate souls, who had nobody else to run to for safety, now made friends with those live sea animals. And they gathered at that triangular junction at Bermuda to wreak havoc on humanity. God has revealed that human beings are the number one sacred thing he created to control all other creations that have life and to manage them properly. So these are grieved brothers and sisters. Their souls are still yearning for burial so they can rest in peace. Some of them still have ambitions that were not fulfilled on the earth, and they are fulfilling them under the waters. Some build houses, they are married, as we do here in the world, and make babies as well. But the issue now is that the world must give them a peace offering. The kind of offering you give in every funeral ceremony. The world, I say the world because this incident involved virtually every part of the world, because the oceans don't stay in one place, they flow from continent to continent. And these people are spread all over. It's like their headquarters remains at that Bermuda Triangle. So there is need to assuage the feelings and bitterness in these souls who were buried alive. Without that, the world will have no peace. Terror will be all over the whole place. Some of them even come to the upland and abduct live human beings and take them into the water to see what they are seeing. So the world needs to celebrate them. They have to be buried officially as human beings before their souls can rest in peace. We're not talking about their families and or relatives again, because you cannot tell which families or communities they come from because of time. But we want to encourage everyone who would never want his or her own relative to end up like these unfortunate people, to make a peace and living sacrifice. Africa is not only under the curse of God for enslaving his own people of Israel, but they are also under the curse of these people they gave away without any money for involuntary servitude in a foreign land. And then along the way, they were simply discarded because they were not bought with money. Their souls are crying for peace to reign. Everybody with conscience for humanity should make a peace offering, even anything, even if it is just $1. Because they have to be buried like you bury human beings normally now. The chief priest, the high priest that will conduct this burial, we have to conduct it as though he is doing it for a living person when he dies. He has to get so many millions of life peace offering, animals like doves, pigeon, and other life animals that are used in such sacrifice to assuage their feelings in the ocean, in the waters, and assuage their feelings against their ancestors, so that their souls will now rest in peace. The time has come for the Africa Global Reunion that will reconcile Africa in the new knowledge economy driven by human beings, so that Africa can achieve growth and the world will achieve peace. All the black Americans, all the black Europeans, Jamaicans, and Pacific Island blacks, they are from Haiti, Tonga, Solomon Islands, all those nations that constitute of black people. Africa must appease their mind and to make them know that they were never bought as slaves. If the African American regarded as slaves are brought in to assist Africa in her development aspiration, Africa will, under a few years, join the Committee of Development, because they have different sensibilities, technology, capabilities, apart from their physical strength. And because of that, even a black priest, if a white high priest does this ceremony, it will not work. It must be done by African high priests who understand that the spiritual controls the physical and who have practical experience of how to bury people who cannot find their body. Even Elon Musk cannot decode these solutions, more of spiritual science and technology. The only thing we can ask of people like that is, both Americans and Europeans prospered under this illicit transaction, didn't buy them. They took them by trade, by exchange. They are the people who contribute most to the official burial ceremony for these people. And like I said earlier, the burial ceremony will be followed up visiting the survivors, the African slaves who survived across the Atlantic, who are now living in Europe, America, Australia, and other parts of the world. There's no country in the world where you pass 1,000 people without seeing a black man. And all those black people you see have their origin. They are still part of Africa's global estate race. These blacks all over the world should begin to see Africa as a place of their natural inheritance and will be free at any time. Government, the people must give them automatic citizenship right, because they are still African citizens, even though they live in Europe, America, Asia, and Australia. We have free volumes of resources. This is one of the learning resources we have for every black person and the world over, who is whether you're a diaspora or not. If you're not living outside your own country, you may be traveling to different parts of the world, and by that you are one of the diaspora for whom we wrote this book. This book contains everything we've been talking about here, as it pertains the Bermuda Triangle and the slave trade experience in the early years of Africa's predation. So, if you want to get any of this learning material from us, you can contact us through our social media and on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. If you want to make contribution to this peace offering, sacrifice to bury the souls of those who were cast into the ocean, then you can also make your contribution through our account with the North American Graduates Alumni Association or the European Graduates Alumni Association. These are registered NGOs that have undertaken to work with us, the African Renaissance Television and the Global Renaissance Television, in order to bring about a new peace deal in the world so that humanity will continue to enjoy the authority that was already given to them by God. We have a lot of learning resources that would aid this process of bringing world peace, not only in Africa, in Europe, America, and all the places where the black slaves have been taken. All we've been talking here are contained in this particular publication, One Diaspora, One Export Commodity. Get a copy there on Amazon. One Diaspora, One Export Commodity is on Amazon with the twin publication, One Diaspora, One Technology Trend. If you want to get them, you can simply buy, typing www.amazon.com/ this title, One Diaspora, One Export Commodity. You will be able to download the book right there on Amazon. If you want to make a contribution to the burial service of these unfortunate individuals that were wasted in the waters of the Atlantic, you also see our contact addresses on the screen, our social media handles, and then you want our account details, you can also get them from Amazon or by contacting us via the social media platforms. We want to encourage every individual or corporate organization that want peace in the world, because in the absence of peace, development hardly comes. So we need peace to achieve development that we are all looking for in our various countries. And the achievement of that peace begins with this move that we as Africans are making now, because this move cannot be started by the Europeans or America. They were in their places, they visited us, and we gave up our people for nothing. So we are the people who will begin the peace process. Like I said, even Elon Musk, with all the technology he has, cannot be able to decode the problems at the Bermuda Triangle. So we want to enjoin every responsible adult. If you know the nominal offering you give after funeral service, when somebody died, let us give it to these people who were not allowed to even express their knowledge or ability, and they were not celebrated either. We believe that through this, God will hear our prayer and definitely assuage the feelings of these people who were buried alive, because He said it from the beginning that He shall not destroy any people anymore after Noah's generation with water. We want to thank all those who understand and support this mission. We are not only sacrificing to assuage the feelings of these unfortunate individuals, we are also going to visit the survivors who are still living. Over 500 million people. It's a whole continent. But they are living in other continents of the world, contributing to the growth of their economy and their knowledge and technology. So we want everybody else in the world to make this sacrifice through the NGOs who have been supportive of this move, the North American Graduates Alumni Association and the European Graduates Alumni Association. They are the ones who agreed that this official burial of the discarded slaves will bring about peace in the world. Thank you for listening, and God bless.